This is Douglas Kropek, and it is February 1st, 2015, 9:13 p.m. Pacific Time, California. There are some important updates on conspiracy theories. And we've all been put into a fairy bubble, basically. America has been lied to a very great extent. Um, America is like uh, how who supports the war, like World War II. How could we support World War II if we don't pay taxes uh, and pay taxes for NASA and pay taxes for nuclear missiles, for nuclear missile stockpile? Okay, I have a lot of things to tell you because America, you have been ripped off badly. Um, you basically have thieves that are just robbing your wallet, basically. And I'm going to prove it to you. I've done some other videos, and okay, man has never went to the moon. Okay, now Thomas Jones was the one that worked with Wernher von Braun. Okay, he was a black guy. He was African American. He was a dark African guy. Okay, he died 10 years ago. He blew up in a laboratory. I don't know what he was doing. My guess is that he could have been working on cold fusion. And when doing experiments with cold fusion is not radioactive, but it's very explosive. You have large amounts of hydrogen, storing hydrogen, and it's very easy to make hydrogen peroxide with a magnetic generator. And I don't know what he did, but whatever he did in his laboratory, he blew himself up. I had found out from his daughter that the Saturn V rocket does not have enough fuel to go to the moon. This is the guy who put the Saturn V rocket together under the instructions of Wernher von Braun, the German scientist. Okay, now the thing is, they think that a Saturn V rocket is going to get to the moon and back. That's totally crazy. Okay, first of all, it doesn't have the fuel because Thomas Jones, the guy that worked on the rocket himself, he had a book. I got a book for him, and it had rocket science formulas in it. And he had paid me $100 for the book. Well, I the book is top secret. It shows rocket science. It shows math equations, how much fuel burn, time, and all that for, trajectory and all that. And basically, it's laughable that a rocket using rocket fuel will get to the moon. And um, if a rocket went through the Van Allen belt, there's poisonous radioactive gases once you reach 10,000 miles above the Earth's surface. There is dangerous sun rays, and the human body cannot handle it. There are people inside of a space capsule going through the Van Allen belt. Once they pass 10,000 miles away from the Earth, they will all die, basically. So that is also false. That's two false. That's two things that are scientific on why the Apollo 11 could not have went to the moon with a Saturn V rocket. Number one, there's not enough fuel on a Saturn V rocket to get to the moon. Number two, once it reaches 10,000 miles above the Earth, it would zap the humans like mosquitoes, basically. The sun's radioactive, dangerous rays would kill the humans instantly. Um, there's YouTube videos that the the spacemen have staged being on the moon. The way how they walk with a gravity pack, they put the camera in slow motion, basically. It's all just uh trick photography, basically. And you could actually see a reflection of the helmet, and through the reflection of the face helmet on the astronaut, you can see another astronaut, and he's not wearing his space pack. He has no oxygen. They forgot to they forgot that the mask can reflect. And another mistake they made was they stuck a camera inside of the capsule. This was a color camera. They used a color camera on an orbiter that was going around the Earth. And they used a black and white camera for the space simulator. And the people in the simulator would repeat everything back to the person in the capsule going around the Earth. This is what had happened with Apollo 13 also. And they thought, why do they got the simulator out there? Oh, there's been an accident up there. A cryostor tank had blew up. And so they're just a bunch of lies and a bunch of misinformation. The uh, the Apollo 13 would not be able to travel 10,000 miles past the Earth. Now, I used to be a paper boy, and James Lovell, the astronaut of Apollo 13, was on my paper route. He cried that he did not get to the moon. They got him to believe that he was going to get to the moon. And so they wanted him to cover a lie for NASA, to lie and say that he went. And he cried. I seen him bawl. He was bawling and crying that he wanted to go to the moon. Well, the problem is he can't go to the moon. It would kill him. And he told me that he had looked at the gimbal and the gimbal had always rotated. My father told me to ask him that question the next time I see him. So when I saw him, I uh, asked him that question, and he goes, "Who told you? Who told you that question? You didn't think of that question yourself?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. My dad wants to know." He says the gimbal never stayed still. That means he never shot to the moon. Okay? And his daughter had also said that the gimbal was never steady. It was always rotating. It was always moving. It was slowly moving about the speed of uh, a clock, uh, about 3 times faster than the hour hand. And she also said that it was somewhere. It could have been 5 times faster than the hour hand. She also did say 5 times faster than the hour hand, and she said 4 times also. It just depends on how big the clock is, because some of the clocks are bigger. The hour hand is going to be moving faster. You know, I seen a clock where the big hand was about 10 feet long, and the minute hand, you could actually see it moving, and it was moving about that fast. The clock was huge. It was bigger than my living room, and you could actually see the hand move real slow. uh but anyway, she saw it. She asked her dad, and her dad did tell her that the gimbal was moving. Now, if you watch the movie Apollo 13, Tom Hanks was the one that played James Lovell. He was always watching the gimbal. That's all he did was watch the gimbal. And he's like, "I want to go to the moon." And the cryostor tank blows up. And an astronaut figures out how to change the cartridges, because the same exact stuff, they said, put the same exact stuff in the simulator that is in the capsule, in the space capsule flying around the Earth. Do not put anything in the simulator that is not up there in the capsule with the astronauts orbiting the Earth. They didn't say it like that. They were saying that they were the astronauts that were going to the moon. They weren't going to the moon, okay? And it was a huge lie. And there was also, if on some of the videos, you also saw stage wire, like the power cords, cam camera feed lines for the cameras and stuff. And how do they have all those cameras out there? Uh, Hold on a second. Doug Kropek, you're on the air. I'm on YouTube channel.
Hey, you.
Hey.
What are you doing?
I'm just going over the conspiracy theories that man never went to the moon. The U.S. does not have a nuclear stockpile, and the U.S. bluffs the U.S.S.R. in the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the U.S.A. never dropped atomic bombs from airplanes.
That's what I've been trying to tell you, remember?
Yeah.
But, you know, it just goes on and on, you know, with all this mis and disinformational garbage that's being propagated on the internet. And that really pisses me off.
Yeah.
I mean, what is this, you know, it's like Operation Mindfuck. You know, they're trying to fuck over the minds of people to a great extent. I mean, especially, I mean, it's obvious. Okay, we were talking about three things. Okay, what was the first one? The U.S. never went to the moon, right?
Right. And I was describing the Van Allen belt, that if people, the first point I made was man never, the rocket does not have enough fuel, and that Thomas Jones, that blew up in that laboratory 10 years ago, he had told his daughter that the Saturn V rocket does not have enough fuel to make it to the moon and back. It doesn't even have enough fuel to make it there.
Yes, of course. That's part of the intercourse with Operation Mindfuck on the internet.
Right.
Well, that was number one. Okay. So what was number two?
Number two was the Van Allen belt, that the sun's radiation energy is too dangerous, that it would just kill the human bodies in the space capsule instantly.
That's bloody obvious. I mean, the question I have is, why are they propagating these friggin' lies? You know, again, it's Operation Mindfuck.
Well, you know, they this World War II thing, they never dropped bombs, and they're ripping off taxpayers. They're just robbing Americans, basically.
Right.
The there is no nuclear stockpile. Man never went to the moon. The U.S. bluffs the U.S.S.R. in the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the U.S. never dropped atomic bombs on Japan. And the they're collecting money on things that don't even exist.
There you have it. It's again Operation Mindfuck from A to Zebra.
Right. And it was the Annapolis that brought the atomic bomb parts to Tokyo. Not to Hawaii.
That's right. It was to Tokyo.
It was to Tokyo.
So why in the fuck are they saying Hawaii?
They ain't saying Hawaii. It's historic knowledge that the Annapolis brought the atomic parts to Tokyo.
That's right.
Or they never brought the atomic parts to San Diego. Or they never brought it. I was just saying Hawaii. Hawaii. None of the history books even say Hawaii. They say Tokyo, basically. There's no information on anything else. The history books clearly state that the Annapolis brought the atomic parts to Tokyo, not all on one trip. They took the parts individually to Tokyo.
Yes, they did.
And it's clear stated history that they did that, and then they took the parts, and why would they take it to Tokyo to load a bomb onto a B-29 in Japan?
Yeah.
That makes no damn sense.
Well, the whole thing is just, like I said, Operation Mindfuck.
You know, give the money, refund the money back to all the taxpayers. Give all the taxpayers 100% of the money back and say, we are all sorry. We snow jobbed you.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And so I was talking about like how they did the camera in slow motion when they jumped on the moon, like when they were hopping. And oh, I was talking about there was a color camera used on the space capsule orbiting the Earth, and they were using a black and white camera in the simulator so they would not get mixed up and confused between which simulator they were given the commands to, because the commands from the simulator was given to the capsule orbiting the Earth, and all they were doing was repeating the words that were being said.
So that proves right there that they were just in orbit.
Right.
They never fucking landed, you know? I mean, come on. Any fool can see that.
Right. Oh man. Okay, now the U.S.A. does not have a nuclear stockpile.
Yes.
The Americans are worshiping ICBM missiles just like if it was an old Planet of the Apes film or movie.
Exactly. They're just using the ICBM missiles, and that's it.
The American Indians painted a big totem pole. These are ICBM missiles, and they have all the Americans worshiping it or something. I don't know. Okay, so Russia has 1,000 nuclear missiles, ICBMs. Israel has 700 ICBMs. And China, how many ICBM does China have?
You know, to be honest, I really don't know at this point in time. Very good question.
Do you know how many they have in their submarines?
Well, I'm sure they must have a fairly good number on their submarines, which of course includes, you know, a pretty good amount that they must have stocked on their submarine fleet. So might be interesting to find out what they're saying in this respect to the Chinese on the internet. Well, of course, it's kind of hard to find out because they're being so secretive about all this stuff, which of course includes also North Korea. You know, North Koreans and the Chinese working together.
So does North Korea have any many nuclear missiles that can be launched out of submarine?
Yes, they do. With North Korea and China, both.
And how many does North Korea have?
Well, North Korea, the latest count, they have about 100.
How many does the U.S.S.R. have?
Very good question. I really don't know, to be honest. So it might be something worthwhile to check into and find out.
But the United States does not have any.
That's correct.
And UK does not have any ICBMs or missiles that can be launched from submarines.
That's right.
So Israel has 700. ICBMs, does Israel have any submarines with those missiles that can be launched through the silo, those torpedo tubes?
Yes, they do. They have. They have. As far as nuclear submarines are concerned, they have at least a stockpile of about 500. So, I mean, Israel can, step up to the plate and create quite a bit of damage because who is financing this? Now, who is financing this? Huh? Guess who?
The Russians?
Yes, that's right. So there you have it.
So basically, what they want to do is they want to frame the United States and make the United States look like the culprit, like the United States is going to join forces with Israel to use a nuke on Iran.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, Iran already has nuclear capabilities.
Do they have ICBMs?
No, not yet. But they do have nuclear capabilities. By that, I mean...
the same as us, as the United States.
Yes. Same as the U.S.
I remember there was an Iranian boy in my classroom in junior high school, and he's all, the United States does not have any nuclear missiles. You guys are crazy. And everybody laughed at him. He's all, all you Americans are like ostrich with head in sand. You do not know. Like that, and everybody's looking at him like he's crazy.
Yes.
Come to find out, he's telling the truth.
Yes, he was telling the truth at the time. That's right.
Yeah. Well,
that was a few years ago, right?
Yeah, that was back in the 70s. Or no, that I think that was like 1980.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is 44 years later.
But we only can make assembly atomic bombs, basically.
Yes.
So that's only what Iran would be capable of doing.
Yes, Iran is capable of doing that also. But they're really pushing it in their underground facilities because they know, about the stockpiling of the nuclear stuff in Israel.
So if they build an ICBM, the U.S. does not even have one.
That's right. You know what that means, right?
Yeah, it means that we're sitting ducks, basically.
Quack, quack, quack.
Uh-huh.
There you have it.
And what are all these nuclear protesters that are protesting when we don't even got the nuclear stockpile to begin with?
Right.
So it's like all those nuclear stockpiles don't even exist, and all those protesters are all, yeah, the other country can have the United States fry like a bunch of red lobster. Yeah, U.S. Don't use any nuclear missiles. Just let the other countries use nuclear missiles on us.
Yeah.
That's how they're thinking, basically. So basically, Vladimir Putin is fully aware of all this.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because if all the Russian inspectors have to inspect our uranium, they know exactly where all the uranium is at. And they don't have any uranium inside some ICBM missile. And So the U.S. really fooled the U.S.S.R. during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah. Like I said, Operation Paper Tiger.
Right.
Well, and of course now, you've got this a-hole Muslim Marxist pig in the Black House, putting the heat on the Russians. Well, the Russians, they don't give a shit. The Russians are doing their own thing.
Right.
They're doing their own thing. They're busy creating more civil war in the Ukraine. They're fanning the fires there.
Do we have any airplanes that can travel at Mach 10 like the Russian Firefox plane?
Yes. Definitely.
Oh, okay. We finally caught up to the Russians in something, huh?
Yes. And actually, well, it's at least Mach 10, which is, okay, Mach 10.
7,000 miles an hour.
Oh, 7,000, right?
Yes.
Well, actually, they've gone beyond 7,000 now.
The Russians?
Yes.
How fast do they travel?
10,000 miles per hour.
We don't got that.
That's right. They don't. That's just it.
So back in the 80s, the Russians had that Firefox that traveled at what, Mach 7?
Yes. That was back then. And now, of course, it's a different animal.
And we were only able to travel at Mach 3.
That's right.
So they were actually going more than twice as fast as us.
That's right. Very interesting. Well, anyway. And the other thing is, I just recently found out, going back to Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
The John Wilkes Booth.
Yes.
Actually, there were two guys involved in the killings of Abe Lincoln. And of course, one got away, and the one that got away lived to the ripe old age of 103. I found out.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's very interesting. So you have to rewrite history now. Like I said, there were two killers. Well, of course, they got John Wilkes Booth. I think, was it how long after he was involved in that shooting scenario with Lincoln? They got him, I think, was it about what, a year after, I believe, was it, I think. But the other one got away cleanly. And it lived to the ripe old age of 103. I just found out recently. So, you got to rewrite history again. This is, you talk about conspiracy. Definitely there was a conspiracy, to get rid of Lincoln.
Okay, we do have the neutron bomb that can be delivered by missile, though, right?
Yes.
And we also have two other weapons. One weapon, of course, is top secret. It's 1,000,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb. We have that weapon.
Okay, which weapon was that again?
I don't know how to say it without giving the top secret information out.
Okay, now what kind of weapon was that besides the neutron bomb?
The other one is the one where it goes, you know, what does that do when it does that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
That.
Well, let's go back to the neutron bomb. The neutron bomb actually was developed by the Germans. Did you know that?
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And again, those secrets were stolen by the Americans. Okay? So there you have it.
Okay, we got the other one, okay, that uses the ether. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, we don't say nothing because I'm live on the air.
All right.
And anyway, we also have another weapon that's a million times more powerful than the atomic bomb besides that.
All right.
The one where it you know you remember the TriStar,
Refresh my memory.
the L10,
Yes, L10.
SFO, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
That the you know what that gets the temperature real high, that is 1 million times more powerful than the atomic bomb, isn't it?
Yes, I would say.
So we actually have two weapons that are totally top secret that the public does not know a damn thing about. Right?
Yeah.
So basically the atomic bomb is outdated technology. It's what's that called? What's that word? Uh my brother told me the word. It's called not indifferent. It's in not indifferent. What's the word? Like for obsolete. That word that.
Well, it's sort of obsolete, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I forgot that word that my brother told me about. I'll have to ask him what that word is again. Um. In like inferred or in some word. I don't know. I'll have to ask him what that word is again.
Okay.
But okay, let me before you go. They got two questions. I want to see what these are. Uh, okay. They're saying I'm a lizard. Don't believe anything I say.
They're what?
They're telling me. Oh, let's see. Doug, this guy is a lizard. Don't believe him. And
I'm a lizard? Are you serious?
um,
I mean, they're being fucking brainwashed from A to Zebra. Whoever has put up this garbage on the internet.
right. Yeah, there's people that are so deceived.
It's all about the grand deception. You see what I mean? Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And this deception has been going on how long now?
Oh man, for like a half a millennium now. Or
There you have it.
yeah. It all started out when the gold on Nebuchadnezzar's statue in the dream turned from silver from gold to silver. Once world history got to the chest, I think everything was start working its way down to the feet of the statue from then on to the iron and the clay, and the Rock of Ages is the last part of the dream of Nebuchadnezzar's statue, and the Rock of Ages of Daniel's prophecy is the Armageddon.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly in the Armageddon stage now.
Yeah. We are now officially in the last generation. We are in it.
Oh, yes, no doubt. And I hope this is streaming out on the so-called internet.
It is.
Good. Well, people need to wake up here and start to smell the roses, what is really going on behind the scenes. You know.
Right.
So there you have it for now.
Is there any information you would like to add for the public to hear?
Well, you know, all I can say is that the deceptions will continue, and the big white brotherhood, or the so-called ETs, who are, of course, of the demonic order, you know, they are constantly interfering with activities here, and they're just firing the flames to a certain extent, so that the wars will continue.
You know, I think
planet Earth self-destructs, and they're well on the way. I mean, planet Earth is well on the way with all these wars, and I think the big white brotherhood has already departed. The big white longs, they've departed, and they're just watching from the ionosphere, you know, and saying to themselves, just keep it up until Armageddon gets closer and closer. In the meantime, they're still watching. The watchers are watching. That's all I want to say.
I thought that hydrogen bomb that they dropped at the Kwajalein Islands, Bikini Atoll, was an actual test.
Yes, it was a test.
But that was a real test. There actually was an atomic bomb that went off.
Yes, but again, those weapons were developed by the Germans, not the fucking Americans. So wake up, America, and start to smell the roses, what is really going on behind the scenes.
So America does not know how to build the atomic bomb?
Well, they know how to build it, yes.
Have they built it? Have they ever built one?
Oh, yes. They built them. You know, they built them. And
so the atomic bomb at Los Alamos was a dud. They used trick photography to make it look like it was an atomic bomb legitimate test.
Right. That was trick photography. It was staged. It was a staged event.
What about
what is really going on now in Los Alamos? That's another good question. What in the fuck are they doing at Los Alamos? Pardon my language.
What about the other atomic bomb tests in New Mexico, like the Roswell tests in?
Well, Roswell again was a staged incident by the German American forces, and was definitely not an extraterrestrial event. And that was just another cover story by the Americans, but it was actually a staged event because the Germans had developed that technology already, and the Americans had financed the operation. Unfortunately, the sucker crashed there. Not only at Roswell, but there was another event that went down. I believe it was in the area of Aztec, New Mexico. And there was another one that went down Aztec, New Mexico, and I believe it was in 47. The same with the Roswell incident.
Who assembled the atomic bomb in Japan? Was it the Germans?
Yes.
Now, if the Germans was
the Germans with the help of the Americans. Okay.
So the Americans never built an atomic bomb independently then?
That's correct, because they got all the technology from the Germans. So there you have it. Deal with it, you fucking stupid Americans. Americanos. Vaya usted a diablos.
So all the successful atomic bombs were either by the Russians or by the Germans?
Yes, that's right. You got it.
So America has never purified its own uranium. Russia has purified our uranium for us, and we never enriched our own uranium. The Russians did, but we have only re-enriched uranium. Only uranium that was already Russian, that was already in the hands of Russian scientists, that became atomic nuclear radioactive.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So the Americans have never done nothing, basically.
Right. They've been sitting on their ass most of the time.
So that's just like a pussy doctor standing next to a brain surgeon while somebody's having their brain operated, and then the pussy doctor taking credit for the brain surgery, basically.
Yes.
A GYN.
Yes. So there you are for now.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions?
Okay. Do you want to say your name on the air?
No, I'm not going to say my name on the air.
All right. So.
Just call me.
Arnesia. What?
Just call me Incognito.
Arajna. What's that? Arajna.
Call me Mr. Incognito.
What's Arajna? What?
Arajna Maya.
What's the whole name? How do you say it?
Well, I just wanted to say Arajna Maya.
Oh, Rajna Maya.
Right.
He's got a big, huge Russian name, and so he has to shorten the Russian name and convert it into an American name that can be pronounced, because you cannot actually pronounce his name. So he's just Arajna Maya right now.
That's it for now. Arajna Maya.
Uh-huh.
Maya saying goodbye.
All right.
Okay, good night.
All right, good night. Okay. So you guys know exactly what's going on. We do not have nuclear weapons. We can assemble nuclear weapons, but we don't have them. And if we assemble nuclear weapons, it's with the help of the Germans or the Russians. We cannot do it by ourselves on our own. We've never done it before. The Russians purify the uranium. U.S. has never done that. You have to purify the uranium first before you start an enrichment process of uranium. The United States does not have the technology. Okay? Flat out, I'm telling you. There's nobody in some garage in Tennessee or some state that's building an atomic bomb. And You can't get anybody at a government facility like at Area 51. You cannot even get somebody to build an atomic bomb because the United States does not have the technology to do it. The only possible way to get an atomic bomb built is through China or Korea or Russia or Israel. Okay? And Iran is working on it right now. Iran has the same technology that the United States has with nuclear science. That is a fact. Okay? Now, all of you that are swearing and cussing, you're all in a fairy bubble. You're all like ostriches with your head in the sand. You've been ripped off. You've been duped. You had some people called the IRS rape your wallet out clean. There is no nuclear weapons in the United States. There um there there is no rockets that go to the moon. People ask, well, how do we get the money for astronauts to go to the moon? How do we build atomic bombs? How do we get the money to build that? The fact is we don't have it. There's more information I know, and you would already probably not already believe this, but there's a lot more to say. And you think I'm crazy, you think I'm nuts. Well, when you figure out and snap out of this fairy bubble, you're going to find out what I'm telling you is true. This is all the honest to God truth. You've all been ripped off. There's there's no man on the moon. There's no U.S. nuclear stockpile. The the United States with the Cuban crisis, when Russia came and brought their nuclear missiles here, we were a paper tiger that scared them off, back away. We didn't have any nuclear uh, weapons to retaliate. And the Russians are, oh, well, you have to remove your Jupiter missiles. We don't want those nuclear missiles pointing at our country. And so the U.S. pulled all those Jupiter missiles out from Poland. There were no nuclear. Jupiter missiles are not nuclear. It was all a bluff. And the U.S. is all okay. We pulled them out. Can you pull your missiles out now? Can you get them out of Cuba now? We won't blow you up, so don't blow us up. It was all a bluff. We do not have the technology, okay? Straight up. Straight up. Clear and obvious. And um it was the with the help of the Germans that the United States used the atomic bombs on Japan. The United States, with its own technology, does not have the capability of using nuclear weapons on Japan or wherever. Only Israel, China, North Korea, and Russia. I don't know if I said Israel already. Israel has 700 nuclear missiles, and they have 500 nuclear bombs that can be dropped out of airplanes. They have the technology to drop bombs out of airplanes. The United States does not have technology to do that. The nuclear uh, radioactivity in the atomic bomb would fry out all the equipment on the airplane. It would destroy everything. It would zap everything out. And they, you know, when you have nuclear energy, it collapses the magnetic field. Electricity doesn't work. If you had an atomic bomb go off, it will shut down everything. You would not be able to start your car. Spark plugs would go out. The motor would die out. If you have an 18 wheeler, your tractor would keep running because it uses glow plugs. It doesn't use spark plugs. So the motor would keep running until you cut the motor off, until you hit the compression release. Then the motor would cut out. But if you wanted to keep a motor running on a diesel truck, you would have to pour gasoline, or I mean diesel, into the truck while the motor was running. You would not want to cut a motor off a uh, on a tractor if there was the presence of a nuclear uh, missile that was in the area. Um, so the Russians have 1,000 nuclear missiles, and so Israel has 700 and nuclear missiles, and that's a total of 1,700. And Israel has 500 nuclear bombs. Uh, China has 100 nuclear missiles, and and China has the miniature, ones that can be launched out of a submarine, tow missiles that can be launched out of torpedo tubes. And Korea has that technology. Iran is working on the technology to have an ICBM, and Russia has um, um, about, I forgot how many missiles Russia had now. Um, let's see. Um, I think I think it's somewhere around 1,800. They have 1,800 ICBMs. But Iran wants to come up with some ICBM missiles. United States doesn't even have ICBM missiles. If uh, if there's a nuclear war between Iran and Iraq, the U.S. is not involved. I don't care what any president says. If a president says they'll back Israel up, the United States has no backup. Um, all that will do is just make new enemies by a U.S. president saying that by him not knowing what he's talking about. And um, we don't have the ability to retaliate on Iran. Israel has all that ability, and what the U.S. has always done was always tried to avoid a nuclear war. We've always tried to do damage control by fighting and uh, keeping things from going into nuclear war. Now the United States has a nuclear proliferation agreement, and that's basically all a bluff. Jimmy Carter made the SALT I treaty and the SALT II treaty. What for? The United States doesn't even have nuclear weapons. It was all a bluff. It was all a snow job. And the I mean, everybody's been deceived. You pay taxpayers, taxpayers for no moon, no man on the moon, no U.S. nuclear stockpile, uh, Cuban Missile Crisis. If Russia wants to bring its missiles to Cuba, they could. They could. We don't. We don't. We wouldn't be able to retaliate. We have different ways of retaliating. We do have technology that of military weapons that are 1 million times the power of an atomic bomb. We also have the neutron bomb, but the the weapons that we have that are 1 million times the power of an atomic bomb, that is top secret information. But the atomic bomb is an antique anyway. We and with the technology that we have, with sophisticated weapons that are way more superior than the atomic bomb, we don't even need the atomic bomb. It's too outdated. It's antiquated. That's the word I was trying to come up with. It's antiquated. The atomic bomb. Um, there you have it. Basically, atomic bomb is antiquated. We don't need it. Um, so we can rely on sophisticated technology, but the Russians have faster jets. That Firefox that they have goes really fast. It goes like twice the speed as the one that was on uh, the Hollywood version of the Firefox. Um, the U.S. has a Firefox now, like like the one on Clint Eastwood when he made the movie Firefox. Um, the Russians only used to have that aircraft. We didn't. We have one now, but the Russians have one that's way more sophisticated. It goes twice as fast as the ones that we have. Uh, it's lethal advanced technology, and uh, anyway, um, the um, it was Operation Mongoose during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the U.S. was doing terrorist acts like using napalm, burning sugarcane fields in Cuba, and we did not have nuclear weapons, and we almost, I mean, the U.S. provoked the Russians into a nuclear war on us, into declaring war, and then the U.S. becomes a paper tiger and bluffs the U.S.S.R. and the U.S.S.R. believes it. Basically, we almost got nuked basically by the Russians, and we would have no way to retaliate. We would all fry like red lobster. We have no technology. We don't have it. The Russians are the ones that purify our uranium. U.S. never purified its own uranium, never. And the process how to make nuclear uranium to enrich it is you have to purify it first. The Russians purify it, U.S. doesn't. U.S. gets its uranium from Russia. Russia purifies it for us, and they have to enrich it for us first before we start enriching it. Because if you take non-enriched uranium and you try to enrich it, the radiation is going to spread and go everywhere. It's not going to go into the uranium. The Russians know how to purify it and enrich it so that the energy goes directly into the uranium. Once once it's enriched, then uh, then the U.S. would be able to enrich it because the nuclear energy would not spread out. It would all go into the uranium. It would all pull its way in from it being enriched a little bit. You would be able to enrich it more to but the process would have to start. They would have to begin the process. So um, the Russia would kickstart it, basically make the initial start, and the U.S. only helps make the atomic bomb. Only by our help we continue, because it cost a lot of money to follow up and continue the enrichment process of the uranium. It costs a lot of money, and they have these centrifuges. And anyway, um, so basically, man has never went to the moon. The United States does not have a nuclear stockpile. The U.S. bluffed the U.S.S.R. in a Cuban Missile Crisis. The United States does not have any nuclear missiles. The U.S.A. never dropped atomic bombs from airplanes like the B-29 on Japan or anything like that. The United States went in there with the Annapolis, a ship, a military ship. It's a Navy ship that kept on going into Tokyo, bringing atomic parts into Japan, and they assembled the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki and detonated them. They used thermite charges to detonate them, and the Germans were the ones that built the atomic bomb in Japan, and the U.S. only helped. But the U.S. on its own would not know how to make the atomic bomb. The United States is primitive in its science and technology with nuclear physics. The Russians are ahead of us. The Russians had the Sputnik in space in the 1950s. There was nothing else in outer space all throughout the 50s. There were no uh, satellites from the United States of America. It was only the Sputnik. It was only in Russian. It's called the Sputnik, but we call it the Sputnik in uh, in America. But the uh, uh, the Russians got ahead of us. They were sending things into space, and they got there before we did. They have faster aircraft, and we do have some technology. The technology is classified, and I cannot discuss it. Um, but we do have security, and the security is a million times better than an atomic bomb. So we do got something, and we have two. We have two different technologies, and they're both 1 million times stronger than the atomic bomb. And we have the neutron bomb also. We still got we got that, and that is sophisticated technology that the U.S. has. That's the MX missile. The MX missile has the neutron bomb on it, and so that's all the U.S. could do with ICBM missiles is use neutron bombs on the ICBM. That's the only stockpile available for the U.S. is using neutron bombs. If we were to go down to that level, or we can go to a higher level and use weapons that are 1 million times more powerful than the atomic bomb. That will just basically, uh, you know, it would basically destroy everything. Uh, so anyway, oh, one more thing. Russia is in a civil war in Ukraine, and or not Russia, but Ukraine. Is in a civil war, and the Russians are there trying to help Ukraine so that Ukraine would end up weakening enough so that Russia could easily take Ukraine over. The United States is not going to let Russia take Ukraine. The Russians are not going to be able to succeed in taking Ukraine. The Ukraine has backup by the United States of America and by Germany. So there is not going to be any way possible for the Russians to take Ukraine. Okay, so those are the things that are going on in the world right now. Those are the conditions that we are facing. And so this was my live broadcast, Douglas Kropek, and it is 10:24 p.m., February 1st, 2015. That's Pacific Daylight Time. This is here on the Pacific Coast, and I'm here in California, Southern California, the good life. So, thank you for watching my broadcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. All right. Thank you for watching my show. All right. Bye.